All right, so calculate the pH at the equivalence point, the titration of 55 milliliters of 0.15 molar methylamine with its Kb and 0.280 molar HCl. So yeah, this one's so much easier. So I have methylamine and HCl. So at the equivalence point means that I have equal moles of HCl and methylamine, or is millimoles. Bless you. So let's first of all find out how many millimoles we have of methylamine. Methylamine, again, millimoles is equal to the molarity times the milliliters. So that would be 0.155 times 55 milliliters. So I'm just going to round that to 8.5 for simplicity right now. So I have methylamine, and even if you don't know what the formula is for methylamine, you can still solve this problem. So I'm just going to write this. It's a Kb, so I'm just going to write that as HB. So it's a base. And this is a weak base. So I'm just going to write it as HB. So this is acting as my weak base. It's reacting with HCl. And chlorine is just going to be a spectator ion here. So one way. If this is acting as a base, sorry, I should take off the H. Base. B for base. So my base reacts with HCl. If this is acting as a base, what is it going to do? Is it going to accept a hydrogen or take a hydrogen?
It's going to take a hydrogen.
It's going to take a hydrogen. So I'm going to be left with HB, which is a positive charge, and then the chloride ion, which is just basically a spectator. So we can pretty much ignore that. So I know that I'm starting with 8.5 millimoles the base. And if I am at the equivalence point, how many millimoles must I have of HCl?
The same amount?
Same amount, perfect. So that must also be 8.5 millimoles, which means both of these go down to 0. So my conjugate acid starts at 0 and goes up to what?
8.5?
8.5. So at the equivalence point, I don't have any more of my weak base. That's gone. I don't have any more of my HCl. That's gone. All that I have left is 8.5 millimoles of a conjugate base. How do we find the pH of a conjugate base? I think we're about to get kicked off again. All right, so I only have a couple minutes because I have another appointment at 11. But so at this point, I have HB, which is a conjugate base. You could also have the chlorine in there and say it is a salt if you wanted to. So how do you find the pH of a salt? Chapter 16. How would you find the pH of a salt?
To use the KB to get the pH.
Yep, you go between Kb and Ka. So if this is the Kb of methylamine, and then HB plus is the conjugate acid of methylamine. So HB plus is the conjugate acid of methylamine. So if it reacts as an acid, that means when it reacts with water, is it going to donate or accept a hydrogen?
Donating hydrogen.
It's going to donate that hydrogen. Is this going to react completely or in equilibrium? What are the only kind of acids that react with water completely?
Strong?
Strong acids. Is HB going to be a strong acid? Is it one of the 7 strong?
No.
Which means it's going to react in what? Completion or equilibrium?
Equilibrium?
Equilibrium.
Which means we'll be back to the base. And what does water turn into?
Hydronium?
HCl.
Good, hydronium. So because we're in equilibrium, we want to find the pH, which means we need to find how much hydronium we have. What do we need to do?
Nice.
Ice table, perfect. So we set up an ice table. Like that. Ignoring water. We start at 0. Now, in ice table, am I going to put millimoles or am I going to put molarity?
Molarity.
Remember, this is stoichiometry, so it was in moles or millimoles.
Okay.
This is ice, so it needs to be in ice tables. Always need to be in molarity, which means I need to find out what is the molarity of HB. I have millimoles, so molarity is millimoles per milliliter. How do I figure out how many milliliters I have, though? Looking at what you started with, how do you figure out how many milliliters do you have? I started with 55, but am I still just 55 milliliters? Or have I increased? I'm at the equivalence point of the titration. So I started with 55 milliliters of the base, and I added HCl. So my new milliliters here is going to be my 55 milliliters plus however milliliters I have of HCl. How can I figure out how many milliliters of HCl I've added? I have its molarity and I have how many millimoles.
You rewrite that equation, the molarity equals millimoles over milliliters?
Perfect. So milliliters is millimoles, which for HCl was H.5, over milliliters, over molarity, which for HCl, your molarity was 0.28. And that will give you the milliliters. So here, millimoles of HB is going to be 8.5 millimoles. And on the bottom is going to be your starting 55 milliliters plus however many milliliters you get of HCl.